How to overcome offense, part 3. In part 1, we started by looking at Ahithophel. Ahithophel's offense as he was in the palace when he was offended by David through the killing of Uriah, who was his grandson-in-law, and taking Bathsheba. That Ahithophel was offended as a king's advisor. When we came to part 2, we looked at Ahithophel's cause of revenge, when he took the opportunity to advise Absalom on how to revenge or on how to wound David. And he gave 2 advices. And we found that we left in the second advice. He had finished giving the second advice of how to pursue David, that he himself was planning to pursue David and kill him. And the first advice was that Absalom sleeps with the wives of the concubines of David in the open. So when he gave the second advice, that he himself wanted to pursue King David and kill him, we found a very bitter man. That is Ahithophel. Now, in this third part of how to overcome offense, we are finding the reason why Ahithophel commits suicide. Why does Ahithophel commit suicide? After giving the second advice, he gets re-offended again. Then he commits suicide. This very man, the best advisor, who used to give counsel as the one that listens from the Lord. Now, in 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 7 to 8, something happens. 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 7, the Bible says, Hushai replied to Absalom, "The advice Ahithophel has given is not good this time. You know your father and his men, they are fighters, and as fierce as a wild bear robbed of her cubs. Besides, your father is an experienced fighter. He will not spend the night with the troops." So Hushai brings a counter advice, saying that Ahithophel's advice is not good this time. So all this time, Ahithophel's advice has been good, has been on point, has been as if it is the voice of God. But Hushai is bringing another advice, saying that this time, Ahithophel's advice is not good. For the first time, people who held Ahithophel in high regard as the voice of God disregards his advice. It is for the first time that somebody is discrediting his advice. Ahithophel had never seen this, that somebody can stand to say his advice is not good. It has never happened in his life, because every time he has given advice that is on point, even this advice he has given of how to finish David is the correct one. But God has used Hushai to thwart Ahithophel's advice, and Hushai is saying, this time round, the advice of Ahithophel is not good. Put yourself in the shoes of Ahithophel. You have been advising the president, and all things you've been saying have been coming out to be correct. But this time round, you advise the child, who knows very well that you're always on point. And the child of that person brings another advisor, and the advisor says, your advice is not good. It really hurts your ego and your standing in society. How does people look at you again? Will they again seek your advice? Will people ever respect your position and your advice again another time? So he felt humiliated. That is low. So we find that one in chapter 17, down there, in verse number, as you read verse number 8, 9, 10, going down chapter 17, And verse number 11, Hushai is still giving the advice. So in verse number 14 of Acts chapter 17, Bible says, Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than that of Ahithophel, for the Lord had determined to frustrate the good advice of Ahithophel in order to bring disaster on Absalom. So Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai is better than that one of Ahithophel. Remember, Hushai is saying the advice of Ahithophel is not good this time. Then Absalom, who is being advised, says the advice of Hushai is better than that one of Ahithophel. So that is how they attacked his ego, and he felt diminished. Now, in 2 Samuel chapter 17 verse 23, this is what happened again. When Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out for his house in his hometown. He put his house in order and then hanged himself. So he died and was buried in his father's tomb. So Ahithophel, after seeing that his advice is not taken, he went, prepared his house in order, and he hanged himself. So why did Ahithophel kill himself? Really, just giving an advice and it's not taken, you go and hang yourself? And we have seen these things happening in society. People take suicide. We have seen someone in Mombasa, a young man, who just poured petrol on himself and put himself on fire. A lady who went on the sea, in the Indian Ocean the other day, and jumped off into the ocean. These ones are suicidal instances, and they arise from such instances that something has not been done. That's why they think that killing themselves is an answer. Let us look at some of the reasons why he killed himself. Number one is that he felt humiliated by his advice being disregarded. Humiliation. Some people go to kill themselves because they feel humiliated. Two, he felt ashamed and with reproach. Shame, because he has always been held in high regard, now he has been held in low regard. He felt ashamed. Some people kill themselves because of shame. He felt he had no value anymore. He will no longer be required for advice. He's now Hushai, who will take his position. So he saw that he's valueless. Some people go for suicide because they believe they are no more with value. They have no value anymore in society. He felt demoted from his position as one who inquires from the Lord. He felt like he no longer hears from the Lord, that what he has said is no longer taken as the one that comes from the Lord. So it's like he's cut off from the presence of the Lord. Some give up in life, they leave in ministry, they leave whatever they are doing because they feel they are no longer heard by the Lord. Their prayers are no longer heard. Another thing, he thought death will help him overcome the bitterness and offense in his heart. Some people think that when they die, they will be able to rid off the pain they feel. When they kill themselves, they rid off the pain they feel in their heart. What was a remedy? What did we expect him to do to overcome offense at this stage? He should have considered his advice was just an opinion and may not be taken. Even you, my brother, my sister, consider that your advice is just an opinion and may not be taken. He could have waited and see the results of the disregarding of his opinion. He could just wait and see if Hushai's advice will work. But he was not patient. So brother, my sister, be patient with the condition and see how it comes out. You may have failed today, but give it time. It may work the next day. He could learn or seek advice on how to control his emotions. Some of us, we're just emotional. We are emotive with issues. We don't know how to control our anger and bitterness in the heart. The only thing someone can think of is take a rope and hang himself because he's very angry or is depressed, is very low, controlling emotions. This one can only be done through prayer, where Bible says without being anxious, present your requests to the Lord in prayer and supplication, and the peace that surpasses human understanding will guard your hearts. You should have sought the face of God before teaming up with Absalom. Before going to be an advisor of Absalom, you should have gone to ask God, God, where am I supposed to be? Am I supposed to be with David or Absalom? What is your direction? Feeling in my heart that David did a wrong thing against me and he doesn't deserve to be in kingship. But what is your direction, Lord? Always have gotten information from you to advise the king. Direct me on what to do so that I continue being of value, relevant, and correct in my advice ministry. My brother, my sister, seek the face of God. Do not commit suicide. Do not kill yourself. Do not remove yourself from the process. Wait, be patient. Trust in the Lord. Know that it is a matter of time, the issue you're having. Whether you feel humiliated, you feel disregarded, the Lord is still on the throne. You are